I was thinking about Amazon's new Lord of the Rings series, The Rings of Power, the other night, and something dawned on me. Every main character that we've seen in the first 4 episodes are dealing with different iterations of the same exact problem: social alienation. Galadriel, Halbrand, Nori, Arondir, Isildur, and Elendil all have memories, dreams, and personalities that cast them as totally alone in their surroundings, unable to connect fully with the people around them. Galadriel, for instance, is singularly driven, obsessed even, with finding Sauron. She believes, with far more conviction and far less evidence that other elves need, that Sauron is not dead. Her people have convinced themselves that the war is over, the threat is gone, and they can finally put the pain of bloodshed and the fear of evil behind them. This kind of release, a liberation from a mission with diminishing returns, is what Elrond wants for his dear friend Galadriel. Yet, she cannot put her vendetta aside. When the High King Gil-galad honors Galadriel and her party for their supposed victory over Sauron, a victory that Galadriel believes they have not won, she alone is blocked from sharing in the sense of triumph with her fellow elves. Notice the twitch of her eye and the hesitation, the dejection she feels at accepting passage back home before the quest is finished. Since no one else shares her conviction, her pain, and her fear, Galadriel is an army commander without an army, simultaneously alienating her friends and being alienated from them. Now cut to the proto-hobbits. Proto-Frodo, Nori Brandyfoot, stands out from her band of Harfoots like a sore thumb. She is more adventurous and less fearful of outsiders than other members of her tribe. This makes Nori, in some sense, a stranger among her own people. She needs to keep serious secrets from them, like helping the Meteor Man, because she knows other Harfoots will not approve of her actions. This kind of secrecy distances her further from her fellow Harfoots. Let's look at Arondir. The 1,000-year watch of the people of the Southlands is over. The elves are going home. Most elves should be happy about this. The people of Tirharad have clearly not accepted them as rightful overseers. But Arondir is not happy. His commander tells him to be grateful that he won't need to see the people of Tirharad ever again. But Arondir doesn't feel this way. At least not for one person in Tirharad. Arondir's implied relationship with Bronwyn makes him an outlier among both the elves and the humans. A story of star-crossed lovers is bound to contain some alienation. It's easy for the misalignment of values and social norms to make people feel distant from their communities. Most of the time, Arondir doesn't seem to be fazed by this. But look at his face here.
And be grateful that you need never see them again.
There's a narrow rift, a hidden detachment between Arondir and the other elves. Halbrand's alienation is a little harder to see, mostly because there's still so much mystery and uncertainty about the character's past and his motives. The sociologist Melvin Seeman, no, not that Seeman, also not that Seeman, the sociologist Melvin Seeman wrote a paper from 1959 that there are technically 5 types of alienation: powerlessness, meaninglessness, normlessness, isolation, and self-estrangement. Halbrand might be a case of meaninglessness or normlessness, depending on how the show will continue to portray him. Tolkien says of Aragorn, "Not all those who wander are lost." Unlike the future king of Gondor, Halbrand's tragic past seems to have made him truly lost, or, more correctly, aimless and faithless, whereas Galadriel's loss strengthened her faith in her duty to the extreme. Halbrand is left without morality. He still saves Galadriel when she drowns, proving that he's able to do good, but selfishness is the main weather cast over him. Again, we still don't know enough about Halbrand to make any definitive interpretation. This is my best guess now. The same goes for Isildur and Elendil. Isildur doesn't want to go into the Navy yet, and this is met with disapproval from his father. He seems constantly distracted when he's at sea, a fact that his peers make fun of. Clearly, there is something that drives Isildur away from his current reality. It'll be interesting to see how his participation in the war might change things. Elendil, on the other hand, seems like a hidden faithful. His saving Galadriel and helping her gain information on Sauron's crest seems to reveal his affinity for elves, but for certain reasons he's forced to conceal that, especially from the Queen Regent. This internal contradiction is an easy cause for alienation. Again, it'll be interesting to see how the war changes this. Look at the first 3 episodes, and you see it everywhere. Everywhere, there's a character who feels alienated, isolated from potential emotional communions with their compatriots. Alienation hides in plain sight. It will be interesting to see whether these detachments get resolved over the course of the series, and how the characters might win a well-deserved harmony with others after an arduous journey. This would be a neat reversal of Frodo's story. In Lord of the Rings, Frodo starts with the Fellowship, and he becomes more alienated when he returns from Mordor. He feels like he can never fit back in to the peaceful existence of hobbits again. This is why the end of The Lord of the Rings is so drawn out. The conflict in Frodo's heart, his trauma, and the battle with himself doesn't end with the destruction of the One Ring, but with his departure from Middle-earth. Galadriel almost goes on the same path here, except the story is not done with her just yet. The task for the characters in Rings of Power, rather, is to find Fellowship and undo their alienation. They are set up quite nicely for this kind of emotional payoff later on. I hope the show can handle this well. If so, the overwhelmingly negative reviews from fans might ease up so that the character writing would come through to the audience. The Rings of Power isn't a complete catastrophe, like so many fans say. To be sure, it's not Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings either, nor is it anything close to a novel Tolkien would have wrote. Unless the show really picks up in the next few seasons, I don't think anyone will remember Rings of Power 10 years from now, the same way people are still watching Peter Jackson's trilogy and reading Tolkien's books. But if we could put these characters in a different story, if Rings of Power wasn't written as a lesser derivative of one of the best fantasy stories, the show might be very different. The substance is there if you're willing to look for it. These characters deserve your attention. The question that remains is whether you're willing to see it.